Hey everybody, happy Monday. Welcome to another episode of Learn with Flo. I'm really pumped to meet with you guys today because as always, I have even more exciting conversations to really bring to the table, especially as we wrap up this autoimmune series. If you've been following along with us for the month of February, man, have we been on this knowledge-packed ride discussing all things autoimmunity. So this series has been full of a lot of mind-blowing conversations. I've seen a lot of really great DMs, which has sparked a lot of other kind of like side questions, which is great. I know that I've presented a completely new perspective on viewing autoimmunity because Lord knows we need it with the growing trend of autoimmunity that's really not slowing down anytime soon. And so this series, if you've been following along, maybe has shifted your perspective completely on what you thought you knew about autoimmunity, how you defined autoimmunity, how you thought the treatment strategies for autoimmunity came to be. And we've really flipped that on its head here with my Lowdown Methods to tackling autoimmunity. I have loved every second of this series. And if you've missed any of our episodes, feel free to always go back under my recorded reels section. I'm slowly uploading all of these to YouTube as well too. That's a side little passion project, but at least for now you can always find the replays of any of these Learn with Flo episodes under my recorded reels. So again, we've really dove into this as a month-long series of February, taking into account not only maybe a whole new definition to autoimmunity, but that new definition then leading us to how we're treating autoimmunity, right? So the conventional perspective, as a reminder for you, has really kind of seen and taught us that autoimmune disease occurs when the immune system mistakenly, I use those air quotes intentionally, mistakenly attacks our body's own tissues. But now that we know what we know through this series that we've been talking about this month, we can really confidently challenge that standard definition of autoimmunity because we realize now that maybe our immune system isn't just randomly or mistakenly attacking us, but actually it's probably trying to protect us. It's working in conjunction with what it's seeing as what we called self versus not self. So that's what the immune system does. It acts as a protective mechanism for the body. It acts as a barrier system so that we can really detect what should be here and what shouldn't be here. And more often than not, we find that autoimmunity is developing not because the immune system has gone awry, but it's actually doing its job. It's just protecting us from something that we haven't really thought about, right? And so with this, we really then discussed, okay, if the immune system's actually protecting us, what is it protecting us from? And from a functional medicine perspective, we really start to come at it from a whole new angle where we start to talk about things like gut dysbiosis. We start to talk about things like stealth infections. We start talking about things like toxin burden, hormone imbalances, even nervous system regulation, right? Self versus not self in terms of past trauma, boundaries being breached within our life. Like it's a whole thing when we think about actual functional medicine addressing autoimmunity. And we address it in that way because we truly believe that you can put autoimmunity into remission versus that is not necessarily something that conventional medicine always speaks about or has the tools to be able to help someone guide themselves through that process. So if you truly believe that autoimmunity can be put into remission, then you probably look at it from a whole new definition and look at it from a whole new toolbox. Okay, we're going to need a whole new toolbox if we really want to see that full remission possible. But even in today's kind of wrap up episode, I really want to kind of come to the table and talk about all of these different tools we've addressed with functional medicine, right? How we have different testing where we can identify autoimmune patterns earlier than just stage 3, where we get to this full-blown tissue destruction happening. And that's usually where conventional medicine will catch autoimmune patterns, is when it is full-blown stage 3. We don't not only have autoantibodies, but we have autoantibodies that have probably been there for quite some time and have now wrecked their appropriate tissue destruction. So if it's rheumatoid arthritis, it's the joints. If it's Hashimoto's, it's the thyroid. If it's Crohn's, it's the gut, right? If it's Parkinson's, it's the nervous system. If it's fibromyalgia, it's muscle and nervous system, right? So it's like we're seeing all of these seemingly different autoimmune patterns actually have a very similar etiology. They're just not getting caught until stage 3. So from a functional medicine perspective, we know that we have more proactive testing where we can actually catch some of these things in stage 1 and stage 2, and even different treatment protocols so that it's not just you're on immunosuppressant medications forever. It's actually more of a proactive and a preventative, reverse the damage, and put things into remission kind of approach. And I talked about our functional medicine toolbox last week. So again, you can always go back and listen to that episode, but I want to kind of, again, challenge us. I'm always challenging us, and I'm challenging our thinking as we come full circle this month of February. Is even this functional medicine formula, is it the golden formula? Is it the universal elixir? Is it the answer that you've been looking for, right? And the reality really is, I will just be completely open and honest with you, the reality is that the autoimmune trend, this is not slowing down. It's not going anywhere, right? We've seen a 300% increase in the last 5 years of autoimmune patterns, and over 70% of those affecting women. This is getting worse, right? My question then to all my fellow healthcare providers out there, as today's series is really going to be mindful towards my practitioners out there, I want to ask my fellow minded practitioners, do you feel equipped to help this growing trend of autoimmunity? Okay. And many practitioners, even those in the functional medicine space, they may not even feel really fully confident in addressing autoimmunity. Maybe you're a practitioner in the space, and maybe you're unsure about some of these autoimmune testing that I've been talking about, like measuring autoantibodies or stool testing, toxin testing, really starting to understand things about more of the root causes of autoimmunity. Maybe you've had clients where you follow all the right protocols, but they still struggle. Maybe you're a healthcare provider that's kind of just relying on the same pattern of elimination diet and the same cookie cutter gut healing strategy that you use in every single case, but you're kind of getting mixed results. So today I really want to break down for our healthcare providers out there, but also for my patients out there, because if you either actively have an autoimmune diagnosis right now that you are either seeking out, or an active autoimmune diagnosis that you are looking for better treatment around or more options for treatment, you're probably going to be sifting through different practitioners to really kind of see who fits your particular needs, and also who fits your particular mindset as well too. So today I really want to break down why autoimmune care, if you're going to care for individuals struggling with autoimmune patterns, it does become complex. And even some functional medicine practitioners, and it's no fault of their own, like I said, this is just a growing trend. It's exploded very quickly. And so some of it has kind of left some practitioners feeling like, well, crap, like my standard elimination diets aren't working, or my standard like gut protocol supplements that I put everybody on, like they're not working, right? And as practitioners, you might need to expand your toolbox a little bit, and really understanding what it takes to guide autoimmune clients towards that full remission. So I do, like I said, know, love, trust, and believe in more of a functional medicine approach, but even I have developed more of my particular lowdown methods that I have used because I feel like not all functional medicine is the same. We talked about that even in last month's focus item around a lot of our Learn with Flow sessions as well too. So functional medicine in some areas is falling short a little bit in this space. And if you are a fellow functional medicine practitioner, you also, like me, we pride ourselves on looking deeper, right? We look well beyond the surface. We want to test for things beyond what conventional medicine tests for. But where I see a lot of practitioners getting stuck is maybe they run a gut test, maybe they run an HTMA panel, maybe they run an organic acids test, maybe they run some blood work, and then they throw out the same old playbook, right? heal the gut, reduce inflammation, balance blood sugar, etc., right? And it's the same cookie cutter process. Like everybody gets a SIBO protocol. Everybody goes gluten-free or plant-based, right? And they're just operating with some more cookie cutter approaches. And what we're seeing with the autoimmune population is it's challenging the fact that not everybody fits into your little cookie cutter mold. And we're probably going to need to expand that clinical toolbox in order to keep up with those individuals that are going to be needing help through all of this increasing trend of autoimmune patterns. So don't get me wrong, these things absolutely matter, right? The testing and the understanding of, like I said, supplements and elimination diets. But if all you're doing is cycling people through the same gut healing, detox, anti-inflammatory diet, you're missing the bigger picture. Your autoimmunity is not just a gut problem. Okay, we talked about that last week too. It's like, oh, this is also a detoxification problem. This is also part of embedded in the nervous system kind of problem. And some of the most common practitioner pitfalls for any of my fellow providers out there, you can maybe attest to this. Maybe if you're falling under any of these three common pitfalls, number one, maybe you're over focusing on the gut. Maybe you're a patient out there and you have worked with these practitioners where all they want to do is just keep talking about the gut, keep talking about the gut, keep talking about the gut. It's like, don't get me wrong, the gut is critical to an autoimmune healing picture, but autoimmunity is a whole body issue in immune regulation, nervous system balance, trauma resolution. And it's like, if you're just wanting to like take the gut out of the body, tinker with it, and then put it right back into the same body, you're not going to get very far, right? And those are the practitioners out there that kind of have their like go-to and their cookie cutter approaches and have trouble thinking outside of these more scripted protocols, okay? Very common pitfall. Second common pitfall I see is relying on food sensitivity tests or elimination diets. That might have worked 5 to 10 years ago when there was a lot of food sensitivities and like helping people test for food sensitivities. And it's like, oh, take out these 5 foods. Like, wow, I feel so much better. This is great. You're a miracle worker. But diet changes, they can definitely help. They will help. Their food forward will absolutely be a foundation for us, but they aren't the end all be all. And many clients need deeper immune system modulation and deeper nervous system work than just an elimination diet. Plus, if you just get them on an elimination diet, now they're thinking in their head that the food was the problem. No. The food was not the problem. The food going into a dysregulated system was the problem, right? So now what you've done inadvertently as a practitioner is you've planted the seed that there is something outside of that patient, something out of control. And then they get nervous. They're like, oh, what if I get glutened? What if I get dairied? What if I get exposed to these things, right? And now you've created more anxiousness and more stress around food being the culprit or the trigger, when in reality, we know that food is not the culprit or the trigger. It's just something that needs to be considered in the grander scheme. So you can't get stuck in the weeds of food sensitivities and elimination diets. That would be like putting all of your autoimmune clients on AIP paleo and telling them to never come off. I'm like, that is a very restrictive diet, and we need to start asking why those foods are not being tolerated. And then the third most common practitioner pitfall I see is not understanding how to handle cases where you get stuck. Some clients and some patients I have seen, they actually meet with a practitioner and they feel worse. And that practitioner tells them like, oh, we just need to push through. You're going to feel worse before you feel better, instead of really listening to that person's body telling you like, hey, maybe your particular cookie cutter protocol, it might have worked with the person you met with last hour, but it doesn't fit and doesn't work for me. Are you able to dig into a different clinical toolbox? And if not, if you just keep trying the same thing, but just try it harder and just keep pushing through thinking that they'll navigate it, it may not always work out. So I do see, like I said, in more of, like I said, a functional medicine space where I love collaborating with other practitioners. And I don't think there can be too many cooks in the kitchen, right? When it comes to an integrative approach, as long as we all kind of, like I said, know our role. But I see a lot of individuals that have come to me and, like I said, they've either met with practitioners that just want to take the gut out of the body and tinker with it and then put it right back into the same body, or a practitioner that gets really into the weeds on like eliminations and food sensitivities, or even practitioners that just don't know how to operate outside of their cookie cutter game plan. And it's like, if you don't fit into their game plan, then you as the patient feel like I must be broke, instead of like the provider being able to come at it from a different angle and a different approach. So we're definitely always going to have, like I said, this rising case of autoimmune patterns. And as practitioners, I think it's so important that we equip the world with more confident practitioners. This is not a scarcity thing, right? I am happy to share my knowledge, and I'm happy to share the things that have worked well for me. And I absolutely want to like learn from others that are discovering great ways to work as well too. Just know that in this space, if you're working in the functional healthcare space, you will probably come across some difficult cases, right? Is it anything about that person? No, it's not the person. It's just the fact of the matter that everybody's going to be a little bit different. And unless you're taking into account that this is like a total body thing, you may find that your current clinical toolbox is kind of short-sighted. It's really only able to maybe help somebody that's in very early stage 1, but your clinical toolbox doesn't feel very well developed for someone that's like stage 3. Right? Or vice versa. So if you work with autoimmunity long enough, and again, if you're in the functional healthcare space or you're a practitioner that's wanting to break into the functional healthcare space, know that you will absolutely continue to run into patients that either have autoimmunity or are in this fact of kind of seeking an autoimmune diagnosis. And not every client will react or respond to treatment the same way that you would expect. Maybe they flare up after every intervention that you try. Maybe they come to you and they've done all of the gut healing work and they're still stuck. Or they come to you and they are already off of gluten, dairy, eggs, caffeine, soy, nightshades, and I don't know, protein powder, right? And you're like, they've already eliminated everything that I would have eliminated. Like, what can I do and how can I help this person? I want you to understand that autoimmunity, it is complex and it's a multi-layered puzzle, and the solution is rarely just one thing. It is about peeling back the layers. I talk very often with my patients and other practitioners, like how we think about the body in terms of an onion, right? Sometimes we have to just start by working on the outer onion piece. Do we know that it's not the core yet? I'm like, yes, we know it's not the core. We have to peel back that layer in order to get to the next layer and see what the next layer looks like. And then we might have to peel back that layer to see what the next layer looks like. Right? It's like it has to come in parts and pieces and in layers. You may not need the most advanced strategies for someone. That's great. If you don't need to like take them all the way to like full toxin testing, then don't do it. But you also need to have that toolbox available for you to pull out for those people that may need that additional support from you. So what I really wanted to kind of wrap up our time with was kind of discussing with you from practitioner to practitioner, or even practitioner to patient. If you're interested in, like I said, kind of hearing some of the mindset behind the scenes, we can kind of talk about like, what does that layered journey potentially look like? Where do we want to start? And then where might we end up? Or keeping, like I said, some of those cards in our back pocket that we might have to pull out for some of those more difficult or multi-layered cases of autoimmune patterns. So the first layer is always what I call like maybe more of the conventional medicine mindset layer. It's not conventional medicine because I see this same mindset in functional medicine all the time. So this is where you just have, I'm just calling it the conventional medicine mindset because this to me is like the lowest layer of support that we can give to someone. It's not bad. It's just starter. Right? It's like, it's the appetizer. It's maybe even more so, it's like they brought you water out to drink. It's like, this is just the water, right? It's very, very starter dose. So conventional medicine mindset, or the lowest level of autoimmune support, is just helping someone manage symptoms or flare-ups. Doesn't mean this is bad. We absolutely need this layer. But with that, you're probably using medications. Maybe you're using like a laundry list of supplements. Maybe you're using an elimination diet with someone. All you're doing is you're just managing symptoms. You're keeping things from getting worse, or you're trying to help like calm the like ever flowing bucket of inflammation that is coming from this person's body, hoping that it just like doesn't get too bad. Okay. So some practitioners, that's all they have in their toolbox, is they only know like, how do I just kind of like throw some sand on the bonfire? Here's some supplements. Why don't you eliminate these foods? Here's some medications, right? All we're doing is just managing symptom flares at that point in time. We need it. We love it. It's fine. But that's like the lowest level of support. Next level of support is we're actually starting to get into the weeds a little bit of questioning like, well, why are you having flares? Versus just covering up the flares. It's like, why do you have them in the first place? So that next layer that we might get into is really what I call healing with food. That's kind of that first layer after the water, after they bring out water, right? Then it's like, oh, maybe we want like something else to drink, or maybe we want some appetizers, right? To start with. Some individuals, we love these people because, like I said, they make us look and feel like rock stars. Some individuals and patients that come in are going to be able to put their autoimmunity into remission with simple changes to food. Maybe that means removing some of their own unique foods that are causing some of these immune system triggers or sensitivities. Maybe it's just helping them balance their blood sugar. Maybe it's helping them correct some really significant nutrient deficiencies because of years of chronic dieting or elimination diets. It's like, this is not everybody's story though, okay? Some people, you work on that layer and you help them make some really intentional food changes and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm a new woman. Yes, bless, love that, fly bird fly. But this isn't everyone's story. And in fact, it's probably more rare that just nutrition is the thing, especially if you're not catching autoimmune patterns until like a stage 2 or a stage 3. Nutrition remission works really well for stage 1, which is why catching it early is like such a big passion point of mine and part of the process. Like the screening process of basic lab work to me should be testing for some of these autoimmune antibodies so that we can catch these trends in stage 1, make some specific nutritional changes, and we're good. Right? But that may not be the only level of support or layer of support. So as a practitioner, if all you have in your toolbox is the outer layer of like, I can help people just manage symptoms, or I can help people kind of like balance their blood sugar a little bit, those are great. Next layer though that gets in is really learning how to address gut dysfunction. Okay, we've talked about the gut. The gut is not the only thing, but it is that next layer of support for sure, especially once we get some of the foundations of food first. So this, like I said, we get into the gut. Now we're talking about a little bit more of a needle mover, but I'm talking about full microbiome restoration. This is a significant part of the autoimmune journey. It's not just about throwing in, oh, here's some probiotics, here's some prebiotics, here's some colostrum, here's some green powders, here's some bone broth. Like, that is not healing the gut. So if that's what you've either been given from a provider or that's what you've tried, like that's not really what microbiome restoration work looks like. It's about really digging into functional testing of the microbiome to restore this north to south process, not only like dysbiosis, but I'm talking about how are you digesting food? How are you absorbing food? What about your immune system response? What about pathogens in the gut? Dysbiosis, intestinal permeability, like, I mean, this is something that we're not just talking about like gas and bloating. I'm talking about the whole shebang, okay? So that can be a next layer of support. So if you're a clinician or a practitioner out there that doesn't have a whole lot of gut testing knowledge or practices or tools in your arsenal, that could be a great place to add that next layer of support, okay? Some people working on, like I said, some of the nutrition pieces and then working on some microbiome restoration, wow, they work wonders, right? Is that everybody's story? No, it's not everybody's story, especially if we're not catching autoimmunity in stage 1 or stage 2. Sometimes we might need to peel back and now we got another layer. You're like, wait, there's more? Yes, there's another layer even beyond gut work. We may need to peel back the support in terms of really providing deeper toxin support. Okay, this gets a little bit into the functional medicine side of things. I'm fully aware of that. That's why not every practitioner feels fully equipped to go into this layer. But if you actively have an autoimmune diagnosis, like more than likely a full-on stage 3, you will probably need more support than just food or some simple microbiome repair. I'm just going to throw it out there, right? It's highly likely that the immune system has been overwhelmed and overburdened from a detox standpoint, okay? You may need to find a practitioner and someone that really follows the food forward approach, helps you approach the gut work, plus they can do a deep dive for you on potential things like mycotoxins, molds, heavy metals, endocrine disruptors. Like that extra tier of support is here and is part of functional medicine. But I would bet like your conventional practitioner, like who actually formally diagnosed you, they probably didn't talk about this at all, right? But if we're catching this in stage 3, then this is absolutely part of the treatment. This is part of the conversation, okay? So these are layers, right? Layers of the journey. Do I talk about and do toxin testing on every single person that walks into my door? Absolutely not. I can probably count on 2 hands how many people have needed this layer of support, but it's there. It's there in the toolbox should somebody need that extra layer, right? And then last but not least, yes, the core of our onion as we peel back here is the highest level of support and where people normally are able to find that full remission if they're willing to go here. It's the deeper nervous system work. It's the mindset work. It's the stress. It's the trauma, right? This is the Cadillac of all of the layers of the journey. And I'm very honest with people when they start this process. And I'm like, I will take you as far as you're willing to go. Pulling back the curtain, though, on the stark reality that the inner work might be something that they're like avoiding like the plague. And that's okay, because it's uncomfy. It's sometimes, like I said, we don't know what we don't know until someone kind of like points it out to us. It's like, you do that, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, I do totally do that. I'm a people pleaser. I breach boundaries. I say yes when my body tells me to say no. I overcommit myself, right? It's like, I get it. It's messy. It's unfamiliar. It's uncomfortable. We're conditioned to think that we can just separate our brain from our body and have my mental health over here and my physical health over here, but we cannot. We cannot do that. So if you aren't willing to kind of really take that next layer of like personal accountability, identifying the areas of your life that you're accepting, not self. Where are you living inauthentic to your true nature? Where are you burning yourself out for things that don't light you up? Where are you breaching boundaries? Where are you leaking energy like nobody's business? Like the body is going to follow suit. So you think that you have leaky gut, but you don't have energy leaks other places in your life? Think again, right? The gut is literally just a mirror to where we're leaking energy and other aspects of our life. So emotional stress, unresolved trauma, even daily burnout can push the body into this chronic fight or flight mode, which directly impacts the immune system, okay? So having that toolbox as a practitioner, you can be as deep as you want, but it's also nice to know like maybe what layers of your clinician toolbox you want to develop more, or layers that you feel like you don't necessarily have as confidently, because at some point in time, you probably will have a patient that needs some of those extra layers of support. And if you're not able to provide it for them, you want to make sure that you're able to send them to someone that can, so that they don't internalize and feel like they're broken. It's like, no, I've just taken you as far as my clinical toolbox will take us. And now we can kind of pick up with that next layer of support. So the outside layer of support for autoimmune patterns is just helping someone manage flares. The next layer is probably digging into food. The next layer is digging into their gut. digging into toxin exposure, and then the core of that is going to be the nervous system, okay? So depending on how far that patient is willing to go, we can really take them to a very, very high quality of life, either putting that full-blown autoimmune disease into remission or helping them live the highest quality of life possible with as far as they want to take it, right? So like we talked about, autoimmune patterns aren't going away. Okay, they're not going away anytime soon. More and more clients are going to be coming to us as functional medicine practitioners, and they're going to be looking to you for answers and guidance. And if you don't feel confident handling these cases, like you don't have the right tools, you don't have the right framework or clinical strategies, you'll probably meet some individuals that make you feel stuck. And that's okay, but you don't have to figure it out alone either. So if this conversation resonated with you and you're ready to go deeper into kind of your autoimmune healing toolbox, these are all of the things that we discuss and talk about in my mentorship program, which I just have launched here in 2025, which is super exciting. You can always head over to the link in my bio, head over to my website and check out my mentorship program, which is designed for those practitioners in this space that want to expand their clinical toolbox and really start to work with more complex clients, but also bridge the gap between like the science and the knowledge, and also bridge into the real world application of working with people and confidently guiding them to be their own healer, right? Which is really, really cool. So if you're ready for that, let's chat, let's talk, click the link in my bio, visit my website. If you're a patient out there and you're curious about your own autoimmune healing journey, I would encourage you to schedule us for a functional wellness consult so that we can run some labs. We can check out some of those early markers of autoimmune antibodies, as well as some early markers of inflammation, and really see how your body is trending and potentially catch some trends early or get you connected to the right care plan. So hopefully this autoimmune series was helpful for you guys, completely flipped on your head what you might have thought about or defined as autoimmune patterns. And now you feel like you have a more robust approach, whether it's you as a patient or even my fellow practitioners out there as well too. So everybody have a wonderful week and come back next week for more Learn with Lo.